In 2025, some Harley models are collapsing in value faster than anyone expected. Riders are trading them in. Dealerships are slashing inventory and resale prices are in free fall. If you're thinking of buying one, watch until number 1. It could save you thousands. Number 7. HarleyDavidson Street Rod 750. There was a moment when this bike seemed like it might be the next logical step for riders looking to enter the world of American cruisers without diving straight into heavyweight territory. With its sportier posture, taller stance, and liquid-cooled engine, the Street Rod looked at first glance like a stripped-down urban machine that could satisfy both younger city riders and seasoned Harley fans wanting something more agile. It arrived promising lean angles and mid-range punch, but beneath that promise lay a long list of compromises. The Street Rod is powered by a 749 cubic centimeter Revolution X Vive twin engine, delivering 70 horsepower and 47 pound-feet of torque. Braking comes from dual front discs with 2 piston calipers and a single rear disc with a similar setup. Suspension consists of inverted 43mm front forks and dual piggyback shocks in the rear. The bike has a wet weight of 516 pounds and a seat height of 29.8 inches. When it first launched, the starting price sat around $8,699. On paper, those numbers sound workable. For a middleweight cruiser, that combination of engine power and compact geometry should have been ideal for city streets and tight urban corners. But the real-world execution left much to be desired. Ergonomics quickly became the first issue. The tall seat, aggressive foot pegs, and flat bars created a riding triangle that felt awkward for many. Shorter riders struggled with the tall perch, while taller riders felt cramped and unstable, especially on longer rides. It simply didn't suit the natural body positions Harley riders had grown used to for decades. Then there's the styling. The Street Rod leaned hard into a modern, almost Street Fighter aesthetic. The bulky rear section, narrow handlebars, and oddly proportioned fuel tank made it look neither fully cruiser nor fully sport bike. It became stuck between identities and, in doing so, alienated both traditional Harley riders and younger prospects who had other, better-looking choices in the market. Bikes from other brands in this class offered better symmetry, cleaner lines, and a more refined finish. Another major weakness was the lack of aftermarket support. Unlike more iconic models, which had an endless selection of custom parts, exhausts, seats, and lighting options, the Street Rod offered very little. Riders who wanted to customize quickly discovered that few third-party manufacturers supported the platform, and Harley itself didn't offer many factory options. That left many owners with a bike that not only felt generic, but looked generic too. Even worse, the riding experience was inconsistent. While acceleration in the mid-range was acceptable, the throttle response was choppy in lower gears, and the suspension, though sporty in theory, was harsh and unforgiving over real-world pavement. Bumps, cracks, and potholes transferred straight into the rider's back, making longer trips uncomfortable. For a bike positioned as an urban weapon, it handled more like a stripped-down experiment. By the time it was discontinued, the writing was already on the wall. In 2025, street rods are flooding the used market, many with fewer than 10,000 miles on the odometer and price tags under $4,000. And even at that price, they're gathering dust. This machine was supposed to bridge generations. Instead, it fell between them, never truly belonging anywhere. But if you think the Street Rod had no identity, the next bike on this list proves that trying to go off-road with a Harley can end up completely off the rails. Before we move on to the next model, make sure to hit that like button and let us know in the comments. Have you had any experience with these bikes, or do you think Harley missed the mark? We want to hear your thoughts. Number 6. HarleyDavidson Paname 1250 Standard. This was the motorcycle that was supposed to take Harley somewhere it had never dared to go. Off-road. For decades, the brand stood for thunderous V-twins, sweeping chrome, and pavement dominance. But the Paname was different. It was tall, lean, and angular, with an adventure-ready posture and a power plant that promised high-tech precision. Launched with the intention of going head-to-head with the European heavyweights in the adventure touring segment, it looked like Harley had finally built something to challenge the likes of BMW and KTM. But by 2025, it has become one of the most miscalculated efforts in the company's modern history. The Pan America is powered by the Revolution Max engine, a 1,250 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled V-twin producing 150 horsepower and 94 pound-feet of torque. Braking is managed by dual front 4-piston monoblock calipers and a single-piston floating rear caliper. The suspension setup features electronically adjustable semi-active Showa components both front and rear. The bike weighs in at 562 pounds with a seat height that adjusts electronically between 31 and 32 inches. When it debuted, the starting price was $17,319. There's no denying the specs are impressive. Harley packed this bike with top-shelf features: multiple ride modes, cornering enhanced traction control, adaptive ride height, and a 6.5-inch touchscreen display with Bluetooth and navigation. On paper, it had everything the serious adventure crowd could want. But in practice, things fell apart quickly. Riders who took delivery of early units soon reported reliability concerns ranging from faulty sensors to overheating issues and unexplained power losses during long-distance rides. Electronic glitches plagued the interface, while firmware updates rolled out inconsistently, leaving many owners with more frustration than freedom. Another major point of failure was dealership support. Harley-Davidson's dealer network, built to service cruisers and tourers, was largely unprepared to handle the unique demands of adventure motorcycles. Riders in rural areas often faced long wait times for parts and limited access to trained technicians familiar with the Revolution Max platform. Unlike brands like BMW or KTM, which have spent decades fine-tuning their global service ecosystem for this segment, Harley was building theirs from scratch. And it showed. Then came the resale collapse. By mid-2025, lightly used Pan America models with under 5,000 miles were being listed well below their purchase price. Riders who had hoped to hold on to the bike for a few years and then trade up found themselves stuck with machines no one wanted. Even dealerships quietly pulled back on promoting the model, with some showroom floors barely making mention of it. The aftermarket didn't rush in either. While companies scrambled to support legacy cruisers, very few offered meaningful upgrades or accessories for the Pan America. Riders were left with a machine that not only failed to retain value, but lacked community support to grow into something better. The biggest issue, however, was cultural. The Pan America simply didn't feel like a Harley. Its tall profile, quiet operation, and button-heavy interface made it hard to connect with emotionally. Traditional Harley riders didn't want it. Adventure riders didn't trust it. The Pan America was bold but broken. But the next Harley, it was supposed to lead the electric revolution, and now it's being abandoned with a full charge. Your gear matters as much as your ride. We dropped a full list of what we'd actually wear and use, linked in the description. Number 5. HarleyDavidson Livewire 1. This was never meant to be a typical motorcycle. It was pitched as a revolution. Harley's leap into the future. With no exhaust, no clutch, and no roar, the Livewire arrived as a signal to the world that even the most traditional brand in motorcycling could evolve. But somewhere between ambition and execution, the message got lost. In 2025, what was supposed to electrify the next generation has instead become one of the most quietly abandoned machines in Harley's history. At the core of the Livewire is a permanent magnet electric motor producing 100 horsepower and 84 pound-feet of torque. It's paired with a high-voltage battery system capable of a city range of 146 miles. The bike uses dual front 4-piston radial-mounted calipers and a single rear disc brake, with a full anti-lock braking system as standard. Suspension comes from Showa's fully adjustable separate function forks up front and a balance-free monoshock at the rear. Curb weight is 549 pounds with a seat height of 30 inches. The original price tag sat at $29,799. What made the Livewire stand out initially is also what made it unrelatable. The acceleration is brutal in the best way. A twist of the wrist launches you forward with no lag, no gear changes, and no engine vibration. But the silence that accompanies that speed left many riders unsettled. For Harley loyalists, the absence of sound and mechanical feedback stripped away the brand's identity. And for newcomers, it was hard to justify the cost when other electric manufacturers delivered comparable thrills without the brand confusion. Range anxiety became another deal-breaker. Theoretical city range figures never held up under mixed conditions, and highway riding cut the battery life drastically. Riders found themselves tethered to charging infrastructure that often didn't exist outside urban zones. Those who ventured out faced hours-long charging stops and inconsistent station reliability. For a brand built on long-haul freedom, the Livewire introduced a kind of dependency that no rider asked for. Price was the final nail. At nearly $30,000, the Livewire entered a market already skeptical of electric motorcycles. When compared to traditional cruisers, that kind of money typically buys a large displacement touring machine with luggage, passenger comfort, and cross-country capability. Instead, the Livewire offered minimal range, no storage, and a riding experience that felt cold and clinical. Riders weren't just hesitant, they were disinterested. Even within Harley's own network, the Livewire became an outsider. Many dealerships opted out of carrying it due to its high cost and specialized maintenance requirements. Trained technicians were few and far between, and parts availability became a common concern. Some early adopters were left with bikes that dealerships wouldn't even touch, an experience that soured their perception of both the model and the brand. To compound matters, the decision to separate the Livewire into its own sub-brand created confusion. Was it still a Harley? Was it something else entirely? That uncertainty eroded buyer confidence and disconnected the bike from the community that once made the Harley name so powerful. Today, the Livewire sits in a strange purgatory, not quite embraced by traditionalists and not fully accepted by tech-forward riders either. It was a bold attempt at reinvention, but it left the very people Harley needed behind. While the Livewire tried to leap ahead, the next motorcycle clings too tightly to yesterday, out of step, out of touch, and rapidly running out of road. Number 4. HarleyDavidson 48. There was a time when this machine turned heads just sitting still. With its slammed stance, thick front tire, and minimalist profile, the 48 felt like a nod to old-school garage-built customs. Clean, compact, and unapologetically raw. It sold the dream of riding stripped down and low, wrapped in blacked-out metal and attitude. But that dream hasn't aged well. In 2025, the reality of owning this retro bobber has caught up to it, and riders are walking away from the experience in droves. The 48 is powered by a 1,202 cubic centimeter air-cooled Evolution V twin, producing 60 horsepower and 73 pound-feet of torque. It features a single front disc brake and single rear disc brake with an optional anti-lock braking system. Suspension comes from 49mm front forks with cartridge damping and coilover rear shocks. The wet weight is 552 pounds with a seat height of 28 inches. When new, the starting price hovered around $11,000, depending on trim and dealership setup. Visually, the bike still has charm. The peanut tank, the squat geometry, the low-slung solo seat, it all calls back to a time when style ruled the streets. But that same style has become the source of its biggest flaws. The fuel tank holds just 2.1 gallons. Under normal riding conditions, you're looking at refueling every 80 to 90 miles. For a modern rider dealing with rising gas prices and long commutes, that's a deal-breaker. No one wants to hunt for a gas station twice in a single afternoon. Comfort is another issue. The riding position puts your feet forward and your hands wide, locking you into a stretched-out posture that looks aggressive but feels punishing. Add short suspension travel and stiff damping, and even a 20-minute ride becomes a chore on imperfect pavement. For anyone over 6 feet tall or with back or hip issues, this bike goes from cool to cruel fast. Then there's the matter of technology, or the lack of it. The dashboard is a basic analog speedometer. There's no fuel gauge, no gear indicator, no ride modes, and no traction control. For a motorcycle released in the era of smart connectivity, the 48 offers none. Even entry-level cruisers from other brands now come standard with digital displays, Bluetooth integration, and safety aids. The 48 feels frozen in time, and not in a good way. Resale has taken a nosedive. Bikes that once commanded respectable second-hand prices are now listed for under $5,000, and even those sit unsold for months. Modified versions, once the pride of custom culture, are losing value even faster as buyers look for bikes that are more than just good-looking. They want range, comfort, and reliability. The 48 struggles to offer any of the three. The aftermarket, while once thriving, has cooled off. Riders aren't customizing these bikes like they used to. Interest in bobbers has shifted toward more versatile platforms, and parts suppliers have responded by narrowing their support. Fewer accessories, fewer upgrades, and fewer people trying to build around this platform mean the community has moved on. The 48 may look good in photos, but the next Harley looked like a beast on paper, until the real-world ride left everyone disappointed. Number 3. HarleyDavidson Street Glide ST. When this model was first announced, it was positioned as the new apex of performance touring, designed to merge hot rod muscle with Harley's long-distance comfort reputation. For riders who wanted a machine that looked aggressive and rode like a street-focused powerhouse, it seemed like a dream. It is powered by the Milwaukee 8 117 engine, producing 106 horsepower and 127 pound-feet of torque from an engine sized at 1,920 cubic centimeters. Braking is handled by dual-front 4-piston calipers and a single rear 4-piston caliper. Suspension includes a Showa dual-bending valve, front fork, and emulsion rear shocks. The wet weight is 827 pounds with a seat height of 26.1 inches. When new, the starting price was $31,999. On the surface, the machine delivered everything it promised: strong torque, crisp throttle response, and head-turning presence. But real-world riding quickly revealed the cracks in its armor. That substantial weight, combined with its longer wheelbase and firm suspension setup, made it cumbersome in low-speed environments and frustratingly uncooperative in urban traffic. For riders who expected nimble control and quick reactions, the experience fell flat. While it handled well on open highways, in tighter corners, or congested areas, it began to feel more like a burden than a benefit. The comfort, a hallmark of Harley's touring bikes, was compromised in this model. The lower stance and stiffer suspension meant that long-distance travel came with a cost. Riders often reported back discomfort, numbness in the hands, and fatigue after extended time in the saddle. The wind protection remained unchanged, but the altered ride dynamics made highway cruising feel less composed than the base version. In trying to deliver a sportier feel, the street-focused setup ended up alienating many riders who had relied on previous models for their all-day usability. The financial impact hit just as hard. Within months of its release, the bike began showing up in used listings for thousands below retail. By 2025, many low-mileage examples are selling for less than $20,000, and they're not moving quickly. Riders who expected to hold their value found themselves either upside down on loans or struggling to trade in for a fair number. Dealerships are quietly pushing inventory out the door, and many are refocusing on other models that continue to draw demand. A key reason for the decline is internal competition. The Road Glide Saint, equipped with a fixed fairing and similar power, proved to be the better long-distance performer. Riders preferred the improved stability, cleaner aerodynamics, and smoother high-speed ride. As that model gained traction, the street-focused version began losing momentum. Suddenly, the bike that was supposed to lead a new era of performance baggers became the one left behind. The infotainment system didn't help its case either. Still reliant on Harley's dated boombox platform, it presented riders with a blend of analog and digital that failed to impress in a premium price bracket. When buyers are spending over $30,000, they expect technology that feels responsive, modern, and well integrated. Instead, they got a system that looked and felt 5 years behind the curve. The Street Glide Saint didn't just fall short, it fell hard. But the next motorcycle on this list was supposed to reinvent a legend, and instead, it erased it. Number 2. HarleyDavidson Sportster S. For decades, the Sportster name carried weight. It was the gateway into Harley's world, a bike that blended affordability, attitude, and mechanical simplicity. But in 2021, everything changed. With the introduction of the Sportster S, Harley didn't just update a model, it rewrote its entire philosophy. The goal was to modernize a legend, win over new riders, and prove that the motor company could evolve with the times. But in trying to do all of that, Harley left something vital behind. And now, in 2025, the Sportster S has become a symbol of disconnect between a brand and its core. At its heart is the Revolution Max engine, a 1,250 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled V-twin producing 121 horsepower and 94 pound-feet of torque. Braking comes from a single front disc with a 4-piston radial-mounted caliper and a rear disc with a 2-piston floating caliper. Suspension includes a Showa inverted fork in the front and a preload adjustable monoshock in the rear. The wet weight is 502 pounds and the seat height is 28.9 inches. When it launched, the starting price was $14,999. The numbers are strong. The Sportster S is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful middleweight cruisers Harley has ever built. Acceleration is brisk and it handles significantly better than the air-cooled Sportsters of years past. But raw stats only tell part of the story. Once riders hit the pavement, many were met with something they didn't expect: detachment. The throttle felt jumpy at low speeds. The handling, while quicker, lacked predictability. And the engine, though fast, delivered its power in a way that felt more mechanical than emotional. For a bike that was supposed to bring the Sportster spirit into a new era, it felt strangely empty. Then came the design. With fat tires, low exhaust, and a stubby frame, the Sportster S looked more like a concept bike than a real-world ride. Gone was the peanut tank. Gone were the chrome accents and classic lines. In their place stood something futuristic, clean, angular, almost European in tone. For traditional Harley riders, it was unrecognizable. It didn't just stray from the old formula, it erased it. And for many, that felt like betrayal. Ergonomics also proved divisive. The low handlebars and forward foot controls created a stretched-out riding position that looked aggressive but caused discomfort on longer trips. Riders with longer legs reported cramped hips and back strain. Combined with firm suspension and limited seat cushioning, the bike quickly earned a reputation for being beautiful but brutal. Resale value began to reflect these frustrations. What started as a buzzworthy model is now heavily represented in used listings, many with under 5,000 miles and asking prices well below $10,000. Riders who once believed they were buying the future of Harley now find themselves holding machines that are hard to trade, hard to sell, and even harder to love. The Sportster S wasn't just a misstep in engineering. It was a philosophical shift that missed its mark. It tried to appeal to a new crowd without giving the old one a reason to stay. If you thought the Sportster S was a betrayal, just wait until you see Harley's most expensive mistake yet, one that even loyalists are begging others to avoid. We've put a lot of research into breaking down these models for you, and if you want to stay updated on the latest industry insights, make sure to subscribe. Number 1. Harley-Davidson Road Glide CVO. This was supposed to be the crown jewel, the ultimate touring machine built for those who wanted the best of everything. The Road Glide CVO stood at the top of Harley's food chain, wrapped in chrome, loaded with tech, and carrying a price tag that rivaled luxury cars. It wasn't just a motorcycle, it was a statement. But in 2025, that statement has soured. The very features that once made this bike desirable are now the reasons why riders are walking away in silence, and in many cases, regret. It is powered by the Milwaukee 8 117 engine delivering 105 horsepower and 126 pound-feet of torque from a power plant sized at 1,920 cubic centimeters. Braking comes from a reflex-linked system with dual front Brembo calipers and a single rear unit, all supported by cornering-enhanced anti-lock braking. The suspension includes Showa dual bending valve forks up front and hand-adjustable shocks in the rear. The wet weight tips the scale at 975 pounds with a seat height of 29.9 inches. When it launched, the base price was $54,900. At that price, expectations were sky high. Buyers expected seamless power delivery, plush ride comfort, and cutting-edge technology. And while the Road Glide CVO delivers torque in abundance, the sheer size of the bike quickly becomes a liability. At nearly 1,000 pounds, it requires muscle and precision just to navigate parking lots, let alone city streets. For older riders or anyone used to more nimble cruisers, the experience borders on exhausting. The technology, once seen as a luxury, has become one of the bike's biggest liabilities. The infotainment system, part of Harley's boombox platform, is prone to software glitches, frozen screens, and pairing issues with modern smartphones. Riders report finicky navigation systems and touchscreen responsiveness that degrades over time. Worse yet, when something goes wrong, the fix is neither quick nor cheap. Diagnostics often require specialized dealership tools, and even minor repairs can result in multi-day service delays and $1,000 invoices. But it's the depreciation that hits hardest. Despite its original price tag, 2025 models with low mileage are now being listed for under $27,000. That is more than a 50% loss in just a few years, and that figure continues to drop. Dealerships are quietly reducing inventory, and trade-in values have collapsed. Some owners have shared stories of being offered less than $20,000 for bikes they still owe money on. Part of the reason for this collapse is a shift in rider values. Today's Harley buyers are gravitating toward leaner, simpler bikes, machines that offer performance and personalization without the burden of excess. The Road Glide CVO, with its layers of electronics, chrome detailing, and integrated systems, feels more like a museum piece than something built for everyday adventure. It is a touring bike trapped in a luxury shell, and it is drowning under its own weight. Thanks for sticking with us through this deep dive into Harley's 2025 struggles. If you learned something new or found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment sharing your thoughts. And if you want to keep getting the latest on the motorcycle industry, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update.